for Sexy September on Film Seizure. This week, we have Basic Instinct.
Oh yeah, I really like that beginning.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like that? Yeah. You approve. That's good.
That's pretty funny. So you have now tuned into, for better or worse, Sexy September.
For better or worse, yeah. A couple of guys just sitting around watching some sexy movies.
Yeah, we got a little sexy going for you today on this episode and for the rest of the month. First episode, as you heard from our resident sexy voice, there is Basic Instinct.
Yes.
Yeah. So Basic Instinct. My goodness, did this change your life as a 15-year-old? I was 13, I think, when this came out.
It did kind of land like a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was talking about this movie.
Oh yeah, I remember everyone talking about this. Adults, my parents. I mean,
it was a massive hit.
Yeah.
It came out. What did we find out? Like March of '92.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I had just turned 15. I was a freshman in high school. So it's like you're coming of age, man.
Yep.
And it's
my
like
first year junior high. Yeah.
You want to see what Sharon Stone's got up that dress.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and at that point, I mean, I'd seen Total Recall. I fucking love Total Recall.
Mm-hmm.
And she was bitching that, but she was hot.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, ooh, Sharon Stone's getting sexy.
Yeah.
All right. And then, of course, the iconic scene, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, at
probably
some
a lot.
Yeah.
About.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually a lot of sort of iconic scenes in this. I mean, one above all, but it's weird. Watching this movie, I haven't seen this movie in, I don't know, 15 years, maybe more. And, yeah, I mean, it kind of holds up for me.
I thought it was a perfectly fine movie. I rated it 4 stars on our little voodoo playback here. So, all right. Let's preface the coming of Basic Instinct with a little bit of film history.
Sure.
So, as many people who probably know us know, that there was a era of particularly late 60s, mid to late 60s through the 70s, called exploitation.
Indeed.
And exploitation typically would involve a lot of violence, a lot of sex, and probably a little rape sprinkled in there.
Yes.
Usually, exploitation was most sellable as horror, but sometimes you just had movies that were just sexy exploitation, just kind of sexploitation, as they would have called it.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. I mean, you had lots of genres, right? Lots of different types of exploitation. The cop drama, though, was certainly one among them.
Yeah, because it was always, and then, of course, you had blaxploitation, which was usually some sort of, just black guys doing stuff, whatever it took to pay the bills.
Typically, I think what you see, and what you saw in the 70s certainly, was a lot of cop drama through lines. Like, that was the plot driver, but some sort of exploitation element was the selling point.
Right. It's like, there are several scenes. There's a murder that takes place at a strip club or something, or a whorehouse, or the hooker with a heart of gold would show up or something, in the 80s, because at that point in time, I think film had kind of changed. New York was getting cleaned up. It wasn't, 42nd Street wasn't quite what it was. I mean, it still lasted for a little bit into the 80s, but it was getting cleaned up. It was getting, the attitude was changing a little bit. And
also a little bit of the new Hollywood movement, I think. While a lot of those films felt very edgy and were very edgy, they weren't as exploitative, but they were becoming mainstream.
Yes.
Yeah.
That and cable came along. So now it's like, okay, well, there may not be movie theaters or drive-ins as much to play these types of movies, but there's a place for them. and they would just typically go straight to cable, or they would be, or straight to video being another big thing. So in the 80s, what happened with what a lot of those kind of sexy thrillers that you would have seen in the 70s that would have been a little bit over the top on a lot of things began not only to become mainstream, but also would start to have big names attached to them.
Most definitely.
Big actors, big directors, screenwriters who were getting stuff done, and they were classier at that point in time.
What do you think was there's usually when that happens, it's because there is a big movie that it wasn't necessarily sold as a big movie, but it was a surprise hit. And it kind of hits the mainstream in a way that nobody really saw coming. And it then becomes a situation where you can sell the next one. You can sell the next one. And I think that Basic Instinct probably hit at the peak.
At the apex.
But I don't think it was the genesis.
No, I think it was Body Heat.
Body Heat? 9.5 weeks, maybe?
9.5 weeks was a little later, I think.
Yeah.
Because that was 87, 88, somewhere along there. I would say it was probably Body Heat was the one that was. Although, if you look at the earlier 80s, a particularly steamy movie that at least had people in it that were very popular, that a lot of people knew about.
Are you going to say Last Tango in Paris?
No.
That's another one.
That is, but that was in the 70s, I thought.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But the one I'm thinking of in the early 80s was Postman Always Rings Twice.
Okay.
With Nicholson and Jessica Lange.
Okay, yeah.
That was obviously very steamy, very, but that was a not a thriller necessarily. So anyway, no, it was because there was that neo-noir. We talked about it before we started recording, where it's like neo-noir was very sexy, very hard-boiled cops, very anti-hero type of people, or at least extremely flawed heroes.
Yeah.
And then you're right. I think it kind of bubbled to the top, and then Basic Instinct kind of basically benefited from being at the apex, but then also got us a bunch of other stuff in the 90s that we're going to talk about this month.
And you know what's interesting about that, too, is I think there was a lot of really good movies made in this genre, but then after Basic Instinct, I feel like it does start to kind of go downhill in quality.
Well, because they become flimsy movies. They're not as richly put together like this movie was. This movie has a lot of things going
for
it.
They try kind of a little bit, for lack of a better word, they're a little trashier.
Well, yeah, to a certain
degree.
extent. Right. To a certain extent, yes, it was trashy. It was what pretty girl can take her top off in this movie and then build to that moment.
It almost feels like it goes back into exploitation.
A little bit. But, so, I mean, because, like, after this, then you would get movies like The Last Seduction, Exotica, which we'll talk about later this month. Next week's movie, Color of Night.
Yep.
Jade, which was a combination of what this movie gives plus The Last Seduction.
I mean, and they made these all the way into the 2000s, really, because you've got Adrian Lin made Unfaithful in the 2000s. That's actually an excellent movie. And
well, it's not to say that this type of genre can't be done well and can't be done that's not trashy or not just whatever we can do to put sex in your face.
But there were certain.
There was a period in time where it was just. It was almost like trashy dime store novels.
Yeah, a little bit pulpy.
But without the richness of character in it. It was just like, okay, well, how are we going to find out that this girl that the cop wants to fuck is the bad guy?
Right.
You know.
Was Body Heat, was that De Palma?
I think so.
I think it was.
I think so.
We need to make sure on that. But De Palma kind of made his hay, if you will, in the 90s and the 80s with the sort of femme fatale erotic thriller. You think about specific. I'm thinking
Body Heat was written and directed by Lawrence Kasdan.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, that's interesting. When you think about movies from De Palma, like Dress to Kill, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was right in that sweet spot of the mid 80s.
Yeah, because here Body Heat was 1981. And, of course, that was William Hurt and Kathleen Turner. Kathleen Turner probably gets the super shoot to the top of the heap as far as sex symbol of the
Yep.
decade, much like Sharon Stone did after this one.
Yep. Whereas, though, I do think maybe I'm missing the mark a little bit with De Palma, where I think he's kind of more Hitchcockian in his approach to most things. He's very much into sort of the gender bender kind of angle as well. Jessica Difference certainly had that. Raising Cain had that.
Yeah, Raising Cane's awesome.
It is.
But that's not.
But that's not
a
really
sexy
this.
Movie.
It's really not.
It's not
yeah,
a sexy movie.
It's not.
It's a psychological thriller.
But you think about the beginning of Dressed to Kill, though. It's Angie Dickinson in the shower, and it's.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does set up that kind of sexiness. So there's elements of that in his work. But you're right. I think if we're really zeroing in on the erotic filmmaker, it's. I think it's probably Adrian Lin, really. 9.5 Weeks.
Yeah.
And he made a bunch of them, and a lot of them are really popular.
Right. Although, okay, so going through the 80s, it's like a lot of people thought of these as kind of the classy, adult, mature type of movie. It's like these were the movies that would not have appealed to me as a kid.
Right.
At all. Like, there's nothing. I mean, like, I know who William Hurt is. I know who Kathleen Turner is. I know who, but that didn't appeal to me at all. It's funny, though, because after Batman, I wanted to see 9.5 Weeks. It's like, it's like you're 12 years old and Kim Basinger's really pretty.
Yep.
It's like you want to see all that,
Uh-huh.
You want to see everything that's involved.
Well,
there.
12 years old is about the right age
That's
for that.
about the right time to be introduced to those
I mean,
types
I
of
was
things.
13 when Basic Instinct came
Right.
out. I mean, that's right in line. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, like, these are movies that were. This is what your parents went and saw when it was date night, or
Right.
it's like, or what your brothers would have taken their girlfriend to.
That's what
get
I remember
laid.
adults talking about this movie
Yeah.
because they parents went to see this, and I would hear a table conversation about this movie, and they would talk about it in really interesting ways. I heard a lot of somewhat intelligent conversations. I remember a relative of mine who was married to a cop talking about it from the aspect of being a police procedural.
Sure.
Of course, he's also probably got a boner for Sharon Stone, but
Who
didn't? Right. It was a very, very huge cultural event, this movie.
Yeah, and also there's always everybody loves a crime drama.
Yeah.
Even if you wouldn't say that that's your favorite genre, you'll watch a crime drama if it hooks you. Like, if there's something there that you like, be it, it's the sexy femme fatale, or it's the, or you're really interested about the lead. He's an interesting character and kind of a schlub or kind of a dick or whatever. Or you're just curious to find out how they're going to find out who the killer was, or how the killer was going to get away.
And there's a dangerous sexuality about
Absolutely.
this movie too. And the movie I keep coming back to in my mind is Fatal Attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1987, that was a huge movie.
Glenn Close was nominated for an Oscar.
Right, and Michael Douglas, of course. Again, Adrian Lin. That movie to me truly feels like when the sexy erotic thriller kind of just exploded in the zeitgeist. Yeah,
it also, I mean, and for better or worse, it also brought up the idea of the crazy jilted lover.
Right.
And, it's like and to be honest with you, it's like there are plenty of examples of the guy being the jealous jilted lover, or the unrequited love driving somebody insane. This was one that it's like, yeah, this time the female's the villain.
And that's honestly, it's kind of an interesting modern take too, because it's a very feminist movie in a weird way, because what's the old saying, men are afraid that women will laugh at them, women are afraid that men will kill them. Right. So to kind of take that psychology and turn it on its head in a movie like Fatal Attraction, to make men truly afraid, it was effective.
Some might argue that the movie is also kind of because it kind of kicked off the the woman is crazy psycho thriller.
Yeah. It's a bit, yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
For sure.
I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I know all women are nuts.
Oh.
Take that, female listeners. You're crazy.
I'm just going to not say anything. Except, oh yeah.
So, I mean, we've there's lots to talk about this movie. I mean, as far as the this is a movie that actually is trying to tell a good story. I think I don't think it's just meant to let's see them titties. You know,
I agree.
Let's take a look at that ass.
I mean, but there's plenty.
There's plenty of nice things to look at.
But what's also interesting is that almost every exploitative scene of sexual gratuity is tinged with danger. Like
or at least tinged with some sort of there's some sort of informative purpose for it.
Possibly, yes.
Because there's
usually,
one in particular. There's one scene in particular.
It usually does actually. Yeah, it does. It drives the plot. You're absolutely right. It isn't just like, okay, we're 20 minutes into the movie, we're stopping for a sex scene. It actually does inform characters' motivations, characters' decisions, the decisions that they have, that they make to have sex, and the way they have sex is actually character development.
Yeah, and also, you know, it's there's plenty of scenes where it's meant to manipulate a character.
Yep.
In one way or another. There's a little bit of ladies. You'll be.
Do you really think any ladies listen to us?
No, but but for those of you out there that might be stumbling upon this show and thinking, "Oh, I remember that movie. What do they have to say?" I would like to know, from a feminist point of view, what these guys are saying about this, 26-year-old booby movie. There's a scene in which Michael Douglas thinks he's the fucking, got the God-given cock, and he gets shut down.
He gets shut down hard. Yep.
And it's like, he is not ever in control of the situation, really.
Oh,
he thinks he is.
He's completely outmatched at every stage of this movie by Sharon Stone.
And by Jean Triplehorn, too.
And by Jean Triplehorn, yeah. Oh. Jean Triplehorn?
Yeah.
Is it? Because there's lots of questions about this movie, but my biggest question is, how do you pronounce her name?
It's Jean Triplehorn, I'm telling you.
But why the extra N-E? It's
Jean. That's a fucked up name.
I think it could be Jenny or Jeannie.
Well, the E at the end doesn't mean it makes an E sound.
It doesn't matter. It could be these things. It could be Jeanne or Jeanne.
We're really wasting.
I know we are.
The clock is ticking.
But I always have trouble with her name. How do you pronounce it?
It's Jean Triplehorn. If I'm wrong, please tell me.
I think that's boring. I think it should be Jeannie. I'm going to call her Jeannie.
No, don't.
Jeannie Triplehorn.
Just call her Beth. That's her name in this, because she looks like
Lisa.
a Beth. Or Lisa.
They use every variation of Elizabeth in this movie.
She does very much look like a Beth, though. It's like in the 90s, that's what Beths look like.
Okay.
They did.
Sure.
They did.
I'll take your word for that.
I dated a Beth in the 90s.
I did not know. I didn't know any Beths.
Yeah.
I knew Elizabeth in preschool, and we called her Betsy.
Yeah, that Betsy's a name that you could. That's the one that they didn't use in this.
It's true.
Yeah.
Or Bets. I was like Bets.
Hey, Bets.
That's super cute. Hey, Bets.
Hey, Bets. What's up? Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good like palling around name.
Yeah, hey, Bets.
Hey, Bets. What's up?
Yeah.
All right. So this movie begins with a super hot sex scene, and then a brutal ice pick death to the throat.
Yeah, probably the second most recalled scene from this movie, I would say.
Yeah, probably. Although I really remember the dance club.
I didn't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Although weirdly I did remember his goofy sweater vest.
I did not remember him at all in that scene.
I
was just focused on her.
There was little flashes. I remember the whole
the gold dress is what I remember.
I don't remember that dress at all. I do remember the bathroom stall and her pushing the door. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
And her girlfriend straddling her. It's like whoa.
You don't forget shit like that.
Yeah, you don't forget.
Turns out that the guy who's dead is an old 60s rock star who is now friends with the mayor or a big supporter of the mayor. I think actually has a job with the mayor's office or something maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's something. He's connected.
I don't know.
And so, you've got pressure from the city to solve this. You've got pressure from the cops to make sure that the right people are looking at this. And so Michael Douglas comes in with his partner. His partner's name is Gus. He's a big old fat guy.
Gus is the best character in the movie.
Is great.
He's,
during the day, he's like this.
He's a one-liner machine.
Yeah, during the day he's like a hard-boiled detective, and at night he dresses up like an urban cowboy and goes to the
honky tonk.
To the shit kicker bar.
Yep.
Yeah. So
gets shit-faced by himself.
Yeah,
at the shit kicker bar in full cowboy gear. It's
outfit.
amazing.
Yeah, it's great. For a second there, I thought it's like, whoa, when do we get to Texas?
San Francisco cowboy.
Yep. They come in. They're going to be the lead detectives on this case. And some things that you find out about. It's like, first of all, it's a very bloody and very brutal scene. But as one guy mentions with the little light, it's like there's cum everywhere.
Yeah. He's got the little black light. It's like there's cum everywhere. So it's kind of like two different scenarios here, right? All right. This is what I thought. It's like, did he cum that much when he died, or is this an accumulation of cum? Because if you look at it, it is a splatter. It is.
It's a
like Star-Lord says. It's like a Jackson Pollock painting.
Yeah,
right? It's. But then you think, all right, well, if it's just from that encounter, do they have sex multiple times? I don't think so. Probably not. Dudes just don't have that much staying power. Or
man, if Sharon Stone
I
want to fuck all the time, you'd be like, how can I make this happen? But you can only produce
so much cum.
Well, sure.
So then I'm thinking, was that all just dripping out of her? Because he was inside of her when he got fucking ice picked, right? So was that just dripping out? I think the most likely scenario is that he just doesn't wash his sheets, and it's just a lot of like crusted cum. I was knocked over my mic stand with my hand gesture there. This is a bunch of crusted cum all over this comforter.
And the last woman just checked out of our.
Yeah, sorry,
guys.
Sorry, I thought we maybe had.
We thought we had
audience,
you, and we lost you.
They're gone.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is a thing.
They also say your favorite line at this point.
It's he got off before he got offed. Yeah, I remember that.
They had a good
I remember
laugh
that
about
line
that.
from when I was a kid. And I thought that stuck with me. I was like, that's fucking funny.
Yeah, they had a good laugh.
They got off before they got.
Those
got
cops
off.
are having a good time.
Oh yeah, they're all. It's kind of a. This is an old boys club kind of cop movie too.
These are guys that have worked together for like decades.
There is only one professional woman in this precinct that you meet, and it's Jean Triplehorn.
Thank you,
Beth. And yeah, it that's I think probably part of the exploitation of this movie is sort of where the plot goes.
Well,
with her.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that. So we'll get there. We'll get there. So finds out he has for the last year and a half or so he's been dating this blonde, and so her name's Catherine. They go to try to find her, and Michael Douglas and Gus find out that she's not at her regular home, but they meet a friend, quote unquote, named Roxy, who's this other beautiful young lady. And when they do eventually track down Catherine, it's Sharon Stone. She's hanging out at like this beach house or this, the waterfront house. She says, that it's like, this is, it's unfortunate that he passed away. We dated and whatever. And she's asked at one point in time if she's sorry that he's dead. And she responds with like, it's like, I'm sad. I miss fucking him. And it's like, that's about as honest and forthright as you can be. You don't have to be sad that somebody's dead. to miss certain things about them. In this case, it was his dick.
Yeah, she didn't miss him at all.
No, it didn't really. I mean, she liked him fine, but she wasn't in love with him, as she says later.
But this is where you, yeah. So this is why I think this movie actually is really great, is because it walks this fine line of, they show you sort of who this woman is that's having sex with this guy that gets ice picked. But you can't quite make out her face. She's blonde. She's beautiful body. But I'm watching it and I know sort of where this plot's going. I'm looking at her. It's like, it looks kind of like Sharon Stone. It's almost like they tell you it's Sharon Stone, but they don't really tell you it's Sharon Stone.
It's kind of like, and this is a weird correlation to make, but at the beginning of every episode of Columbo, you know who commits the crime. The story is how does everybody else come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
It's, it's like for a little while that person covers themselves up really well, and you know who the killer is. It's all about Columbo getting to that conclusion, and it's somewhat built like that. It's like it's conceivably it can't not be her, but you are also given a lot of doubt.
A lot of doubt, and it's a really tight script. I have to really hand it off to our screenwriter. It's,
Joe Esterhas.
He writes a really tight script here. It's smart. It's funny. It's kind of exploitative, but also tongue in cheek.
Yeah, like
it knows exactly what it is, and it's just a kind of a good moving, driving story. Like, it's a little over 2 hours long, and it never feels like you're bored.
No, you can be left with some questions.
It's ambiguous.
It is ambiguous
in its ending. But it's also kind of definitive in other ways. I don't know. It's
you can actually draw different conclusions. Like I'm starting to think about. I have a different ending that I think I have a different ending than what the visual is.
Okay.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get there.
And it does have, at first I'm watching it, about the first 30 minutes, I'm like, man, this is really, really trying hard for that noir feel, right? With the rain and the mystery. And the way people talk to each other is all in stilted, kind of short sentences. Everyone's trying to one-up each other. It just feels like a kind of a classic film noir, but also trying too hard. But then it kind of settles in.
It settles in, and it basically, I think it was trying to build itself a foundation.
Yeah.
And then it builds a better house on top of it.
Yeah, because characters become interesting. They change. They, you can see how they're manipulating or trying to manipulate each other.
Yeah.
It's an interesting movie.
Yeah, and so the other main through point is that, okay, well, the main, obviously, in all of these types of stories, when somebody is killed in bed or in a intimate setting, it doesn't even have to be sex, but the first person they're going to look at are spouses and girlfriends.
Yep.
Especially if there's no sign of break-in. So it's always going to be somebody they know, and if it's a particularly intimate scenario, the first rule in the book is to look at the lover,
right? Yeah.
And so we know 100% that Catherine's the number one suspect.
Yes.
They can't not be her. They do have an interesting scene that you don't normally see, is where they are trying to figure out if they even should bother going after her.
Yeah.
Because what was it? The district attorney or somebody comes up and says, "There's two ways this can go."
Wayne Knight, right?
No, it was before they got to that.
Okay.
It was the guy who's like, oh, damn it.
That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. This movie's full of people that you know.
Yeah, it is.
If you watch any movies in the 80s or the early 90s.
If you want to play the, oh shit, where's that guy from?
Yeah.
Watch this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Including the guy who's in charge of internal affairs has already appeared in a movie that we've covered. He was Nyx in the Lord of Illusions. Basically, the guy is saying, trying to figure out, okay, are we going to press charges against her, or are we going to pursue her as as a potential suspect. He basically says there's two ways this can go. One, she's going to say that that she has an alibi because she wrote a book about this type of murder. She's so Catherine's a writer, as you find out, and she's actually a pretty successful mystery writer, on top of being exceptionally rich because of her parents passing away in a plane accident.
Boat
accident.
accident.
That's what. Yes, you're right. Boat accident. No investigation. Nothing. I mean, she basically went into college.
There was a life insurance investigation that came up with nothing.
So she's either going to say that she has an alibi because why would she write the book that would basically point all the fingers at her? And I can't remember the other thing, but it was basically the decision was, yeah, she's got to be the first person of interest that we're going to look at.
Yeah.
So
it's a psychologist. He's like, you're dealing with two types of people. One of two types of people. She did it, and you're dealing with someone who actually wrote a book about the murder that she was going to one day commit, several years before, and that she's fulfilling this fantasy. So she's highly psychotic. Or you're dealing with a person who has read her book and
who is a copycat
and is trying to recreate this with possibly the intention of framing her
or getting her attention and putting her in danger.
And in either way, you're dealing with a highly dangerous psychotic person.
But as it comes down to is this person, the writer is the person we should be going after. Fuck everybody else.
Well, they don't have anybody else to go after.
They had no other
They don't
leads.
have any other leads. I mean, of course.
So they bring her in to ask her these questions. Of course, that's when the famous interrogation scene where she crosses her legs and she's not wearing panties.
That is really good in HD. Because on VHS and shit and like standard def on HBO, you can't really catch that.
I can tell how she grooms herself in HD.
Yeah, in HD, that was the first time I've seen that scene in HD. I was like, oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, you got some muff.
You can.
Yeah. Got to see a little muff.
I didn't see that in the big screen, but I imagine that was pretty shocking.
Yeah, I bet a lot of guys were. I bet a lot of girls were very unnerved by how much their guys liked it.
I wonder what percentage of date nights after that movie ended well.
I bet quite highly.
You think so?
I would think so because
ended well, meaning that there was a healthy consensual sex that occurred.
Not
healthy can be a lot of things, and it can be a lot of different types of sex.
Sure.
But was there good, healthy, consensual sex in the majority of dates after that movie?
Because I would say that this probably would have been more easily marketable to people who were a little older, probably had like kids and stuff. I don't know. I mean, they may have just come home and it's like, wow, that was a cool movie. Let's go to bed.
Maybe.
You take care of these fucking kids in the morning.
Team building exercise 99.
He's fucking.
And it never looked better on you.
A little deep cut there.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, I would say that first dates, no. This is kind of like in The Graduate.
Probably,
it's like when
yes.
you take your first date to the fucking strip club.
Yeah.
It's like that's not going to end well, dude.
No. In fact, you're probably lucky to. I don't know. Maybe you're not lucky to get a second date, but after a first date on this kind of movie,
okay,
yeah.
Let's put it this way. Okay, so let's say it's somebody that you
probably not the right move.
If you know the person well enough, like you guys worked together and you guys knew what each other liked, or you were, you had.
This is bringing up a really funny story that I have to tell.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm getting at is like if you just went up to a girl at the supermarket and said, "Hey, you want to go out, hit a movie, get some coffee or something, and fuck."
Yeah.
It's probably not going to end with that last bit.
No.
And it's definitely probably not going to end with that last bit if you're taking her to fucking Basic Instinct as your first date. I'm just saying.
But, yeah. All right. So the
story.
story I'm thinking of, and I'm going to leave names out of this story, But I'm thinking of a time when I worked at a video store, and I worked with a male employee and a female employee. And the male employee liked the female employee, but it was not reciprocated.
Oh, I know what you're talking
And the
about.
male employee asked the female employee out on a date. On a date. I don't think he really said the word date, but he said, "Hey, would you like to go see a movie?" And the movie that he asked her to go see, and this is, mind you, he really liked this girl. They'd never been on anything romantic. It was just a chance for him to go be with her alone, to maybe plant the seeds of something in the future. But the movie that he asked her to go see was 8mm with Nicolas Cage.
Now, 8mm is a different type of sexy September.
8mm,
Because that's about a snuff
8mm is not sexy at all.
No.
It is the antithesis of sexy.
It's about hunting down a snuff movie maker.
It is probably one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of really disturbing movies. But yeah, he asked her to go see that movie. And
Well, have you seen a Serbian film? Let's see if we can go take a date to a Serbian.
I've seen a Serbian film. I don't really know what you call that. It's more like a
the
weird
most
kind of
depressing
performance
movie ever.
art of some
Yeah,
sort.
it's
Yeah.
depressing as fuck.
But she then came to me and said, so and so asked me to go to a movie with him, and I don't really want to give him the wrong idea. So would you mind coming? So that's fun, right? I'm put in the middle between my friend and my other friend. But yes, I said yes, especially because the movie was fucking 8mm. Are you shitting me with that? I hadn't seen it yet, but I knew exactly what it was, and I kind of gave him the stare, like. So here's how it happens. I show up.
I'm gonna just preface this real quick and say that friend wasn't me.
No, it wasn't. It was
But I
not.
remember
It
this
wasn't.
exact moment.
It wasn't your glorious co-host Geoff. It was someone else. But so he picked her up, I believe, or they went over there together. The movie theater was really close to the video store that we worked at. So he
Was
might
that
have.
Lowe's?
It was at Sony, yeah. Lowe's,
okay.
Sony.
Yeah.
So they're in line getting their tickets, and I show up, and gives me oh shit. So my friend gives me this look, like he could kill me. He hasn't even seen 8mm. He hasn't even seen 8mm yet. But I'm gonna be the subject of this snuff film.
Yeah, this real life snuff film.
Oh my god, he's so mad at me. He's so fucking mad at me. And she looks at me so relieved, and I'm like, this is fucking bullshit that I'm even here right now.
You're the fucking.
So he's paying for her ticket. So he feels like he has no choice to buy my ticket too, because he's already been like, yeah, because it's his thing. So weirdly, I don't even know if that's the right move or not. But he buys my ticket too. So not only have I completely,
did you get some popcorn?
quote unquote, cock blocked him at this point, he's also bought my ticket. So I'm now his date too.
Funny thing is that it's a story that lived on for a long time afterwards.
It did. I never really lived it
So
down.
much so that the name Jay was used as a villain in a script.
It was, yeah. I never really recovered from that with him, but I think most other friends in our circle kind of got what happened and were not necessarily. I wasn't the villain in that story.
No, I never thought of. I mean,
and here's the thing.
I knew both those people very well. I knew what the situation was, and there was a great deal of discomfort.
And here's the thing: at the end of the day, this person was going to be a gentleman. I know he was going to.
Oh,
be a
absolutely.
Gentleman. I had no concern whatsoever that there would be any sort of any sort of misconduct on his behalf. I went because I was asked. It would make her more comfortable, and and quite honestly, she wasn't into him.
No.
So she wanted to make that kind of statement to sort of shut most of it down.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I mean, and it wasn't. There were a lot of reasons.
And she was my friend too.
We're getting into the weeds here on the story. But suffice it to say, I knew exactly what was going on behind the scenes too.
Yeah.
And
point being
that she was a sweetheart.
She was a sweetheart,
and she didn't want to hurt anybody.
Nope. So,
and I think everybody understands.
So
that.
the point of this story is,
anyway,
be very careful about your movie selection on a first date.
However, if you've been dating for a while, or if you're married, go fucking see Basic
Yeah,
Instinct.
fucking A.
Get your fucking slob knob.
This was the, in my opinion, the perfect married couple date movie.
This is exactly
fucking perfect.
This is the stuff. Like, so now another thing also. So we haven't even gotten through the fucking plot of this movie. It doesn't fucking matter.
Doesn't matter. Most people have seen this movie.
It's a cat and mouse movie. Is she the killer? Is she not? The Beth Jean Triplehorn character comes into it because all of a sudden you realize they know each other.
Yep.
There's some kinkiness. There's some. And do you want to just jump to the end?
Well, another thing I love about this movie is that pieces of information are given in fragments by characters, and you're not ever totally sure of their motivation. Like,
yeah, like, are you telling me that to manipulate me into a certain circumstance?
Right.
Are you telling me that for my actual, like, for the good? Or are you telling that because you're against the other person? What's going on?
And what's
there?
interesting about this movie too is Michael Douglas is very much the audience in this movie.
We're with him from the beginning.
We are with him from the beginning.
We understand why he's attracted to her. We understand
Yes.
what we would do,
Yes.
which would be probably the same thing as he would do.
When he fails at his ids and his desires, we understand why. When he starts to smoke again, he starts to drink again. When he has sex with Sharon Stone, we're all kind of with him because, yeah, we would probably be that weak too. And he's not necessarily a good guy, but he's human as fuck. Like, he is a person who has issues, but is not a psychopath, not a sociopath, just a damaged soul. So you identify with him every step of the way. And then to wrap that point up, I don't know what I was going to say, but you learn every single piece of information you need to know about what's happening from his investigation. So you literally, he is the embodiment of the audience member.
Yeah, which is always, I think, always a positive if a movie can include that.
Yeah,
because it lets you know that things aren't being written out of your control or over your head. That you're just there accepting if you can always have somebody that you can kind of go with on the journey, even if it's just a single character that you are. I mean, because like I've seen movies that have ensemble casts where you are able to feel like, this situation reminds me of this that these characters are dealing with, or this situation reminds me of this that these characters are dealing with. It's always good to have that extra connection. So a lot of, did she or didn't she kill this guy? Is she acting out her fantasies of what she writes in the book? Is she inviting someone else to do these things to people? What it basically comes down to is the triangle of Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone and Jean Triplehorn,
and a weird tangent square possibly of
Roxy?
Sharon Stone's girlfriend Roxy.
Yeah, so
because she basically attempts murder.
Yeah,
in this
Roxy
movie.
is so Sharon Stone. So Catherine's girlfriend Roxy likes to watch her have sex with men, specifically men. But they are a couple, technically. Like, I think they actually are.
Yeah, they're a couple.
It seems as though Sharon Stone's intentions are to be in a lesbian relationship, but
But there's this,
but she's bisexual, so
and she's possibly like her relationship with men seems sexual only, or as a research tool.
although one of the people that she was associated with that died as a boxer, died in the ring, I
Right.
guess. She was actually in love with him and
Yeah.
was brokenhearted over
Yeah.
that.
But there's definitely this element of jealousy that you get from Roxy. I mean, she essentially confronts Michael Douglas after they have sex.
And basically says, if you don't leave her alone, I'll kill you.
I'll kill you, yeah.
And he doesn't leave her alone, so she tries to kill him.
She tries to kill him. And so there's a couple of things you can start to think there. Okay, did she kill the guy at the beginning of the movie?
Was she impersonating Catherine, or was that a kink of his?
Right.
To have her impersonate Catherine?
Or does she see something about Michael Douglas's character that could actually truly negatively impact her relationship with Sharon Stone?
Right. There's a lot of layer there.
Yeah.
Don't worry, she fails to kill Michael Douglas with a Lotus that Catherine owns and
Yep.
kills herself over.
She goes over
a cliff,
construction
like
median thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Into a ravine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you find out that. So back in the days of Berkeley, when they were all at Berkeley, Sharon Stone's character was obsessed over by Gene Triplehorn's character. But then you find out that, then Gene Triplehorn tells Michael Douglas, who they have a relationship too, that, like a fucking relationship. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fucking.
fucking.
They were fucking earlier in the movie. Actually, he rapes her.
What'd I say? FU University?
FU University. Yeah, everybody's fucking.
Where'd you go? I went to FU.
Let me see if I got my diploma. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Flip you off. FU.
The double deuce. Anyway, so and then she tells Michael Douglas, like, oh no, did she tell you the story about this? How she was the obsessed one, how she did her hair like mine. And it's like you're a psychologist. You know the crazy person is never going to be the one who says I was the crazy one in this situation.
Right. But they're both highly intelligent psychiatrists.
They're both trained psychologists.
I mean,
Right.
he is in between. He is just a fucking detective in San Francisco. Like,
Right.
again, he is outflanked.
He's a detective who wants to get his dick wet.
He is outflanked by beautiful, sexy, super fucking smart women. This
Mind
whole
shrinks,
movie.
too. Like,
yeah.
his shrinking
Yeah.
brains.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now it's like, okay, well, they both have him like just wrapped around their fingers.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, which one does he believe? Well, he's really hot for Sharon Stone. I don't blame him. They're both hot.
Yeah.
But so it's like he is ultimately against Beth.
Her story starts to unravel.
Right. It comes out that, yes, her ex-husband or her husband
Was killed.
There
There was a girlfriend.
was a girlfriend.
She's been lying to him.
She's been lying to him about
Because
how
she
well
said
she
it was
knows.
just a one-time thing with a woman when she slept with Sharon Stone.
Well, at first she says that she hardly knew her.
Yeah.
Then that became untrue.
Yeah.
Because he found out that she went by another name
Right.
back in college.
Yep.
Lisa something. Now she's Beth, whatever her husband's name was, because her husband just liked to call her Beth. I have a feeling that's probably senility.
Maybe.
I mean, like, what would you like to be called? Let me call you a different name.
And I'm just going to change my name to that officially? That's fucking weird.
Yeah, she had some issues.
You would just stick with Elizabeth as your... Why would you go to all these
You could go
lengths?
to Liz. You
Yeah.
could be Betsy. You could be Betts.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, Catherine, it just goes by Catherine. She's like straight shooter.
Yeah.
She's also manipulative.
But it's interesting because you're left...
So the end of the movie, let's get to the end of the
Okay.
movie. Basically, Gus, Michael Douglas's partner, is told to go to a place in Oakland of somebody who was Catherine's roommate in freshman year of college, who knows all about Beth's involvement with her,
Yeah.
knows all about Catherine's dealings in college, and he goes there realizes it's a setup. He gets killed by an ice pick with somebody who's dressed in a San Francisco Police Department slicker.
Yep.
With a hood and with a blonde wig.
Yeah.
Just so happens that Jean Triplehorn is there too.
She shows up. Michael Douglas is like, I don't know about this. He runs up there, and he sees Gus all stabbed to shit in the elevator, dead. Then he walks out of the elevator to go down the hallway, and Jean Triplehorn just happens to come around the corner.
Right, and it's like, oh, what are you doing here?
She's like, oh, I was.
Weird.
There was. What did she say? That there was
She had gotten a message to meet Gus there.
Right.
So somebody brought the two of them together. Then he's like, he's drawing his gun. It's like, because for all he knows, he knows that she's involved in some way, and his partner's dead. So in a way, he's kind of reacting like, hey, put your hands up, put your fucking hands up. Draws his gun. She doesn't put her hands up and starts digging around in her pocket, and he shoots her, kills her.
Yeah.
And what she was pulling out of his pocket
was her Bart Simpson keychain
with his key on it.
Yeah.
And I said, I doubt he will ever be able to watch The Simpsons again.
Don't have a cow man.
Yeah, don't have a cow man.
Kind of cowabunga. Did he say cowabunga?
Yeah, he said cowabunga.
Yeah. All right.
So,
but what's interesting too is then they also, the preponderance of the evidence after this point is all points to Jean Triplehorn, but you still don't feel right about it. It feels like it's planted.
It seems it's easy to plant. Stuff that was found was found in a kitchen drawer.
Yeah.
Like all these books of Sharon Stone's, which she also was handing out to Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Turns out that her parents died in a boating accident, which she writes a book about a little boy who sets up his parents to die in a boating accident just to see if he can get away with it.
Right.
It's real obvious that she has at the very least, a killer streak in her, or at least a
but she calls it like the fact that she hangs out with killers, that she gets in too deep with her research, that it goes too far,
and also it's like she'll use people as subjects of her writing because world beware,
right?
Because she's a writer, and you hear that before, where if you're friends with a writer who writes fiction, you will eventually be a character in one, and sometimes you're not going to like what they have you do. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are pointing out your flaws. It's just that they're using your personality type, and that's something that's very true with writers.
It makes you wonder a little bit though about what's Jean Triplehorn's motives at this point. You get the sense that somebody was on to her, because
she also had a gun that killed her internal affairs boss when he started digging too deep into her history.
Right, he talked to some police that investigated her husband's murder
back in Salinas,
right,
which is outside
there's maybe the sense that she's trying to cover her tracks, but why would she show herself to Michael Douglas? But she does say, "What are you doing here?" I don't think she also expected him to be there.
Right.
So maybe he caught her surprised.
Yeah, it's
so ambiguously delicious because there is no definitive answer to who did what in this movie. It's cool. Like just talking about it out loud is like, wow, this is a really good script.
The movie ends with Sharon Stone meeting up with Michael Douglas again and saying, "I'm sorry for what's happened. And I'm sorry that I can't let myself care for you," because basically she dumps his ass after she writes her book, using him as the main character.
Right.
She kills his character in the book and therefore basically says, "You're dead to me. See you later. Get fucked."
Yeah.
And he's pretty upset about that. Then on top of that, his partner dies. His girlfriend
kills
before
his girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so, and she basically they fuck again. A lot.
Yeah.
And it looks like, they're talking about, like, his big thing is, she'll say, "What happens next?" And he'll say, was it like...
It's like a couple rugrats, fuck like minks.
Fuck like
have
minks.
A couple rugrats.
And live happily ever after. And she's like, "Well, I don't like rugrats." And she's reaching over the bed, and he's like, "Well, then we just fuck like minks then."
Yeah.
And then they fuck like minks. They're like, they go right back to it. It's like, right back to it.
And
it's
the stinger shot. The camera pans down. You see what she was reaching for, and
it was an ice pick. Now, I have a question, though.
Yeah.
All right. So I know it's supposed to indicate that she was the person who was killing people, that she was acting out her stories in some way, shape, or form. Couple of things, though. That ice pick is not the same as the other ones that were used. It was missing the wooden handle.
Yeah.
It was just the
it was
pick part.
it was a metal handle.
It didn't have a handle.
It did. It had.
Well, but it would have been what screwed into the wooden part.
Well, whatever. It was different.
Anyway, it was different.
It was different.
So you
don't like the
no, it's not that I don't like the ending. I questioned it.
Yeah.
I don't think she's innocent.
Right.
I think she manipulated people into doing things that she wanted them to do, including
so too.
kill other people.
I think so too.
But why make sure that you saw a blonde wig in the same place that Jean Triplehorn was? I honestly think that Jean Triplehorn was guilty. I think she was actually the guilty one. Now, maybe she didn't have all the evidence in one convenient place inside of her apartment.
Do you think that she killed the guy at the beginning of the movie?
Yes, because they knew each other. They actually make the point that, Jean Triplehorn
the
doubled
ice
back
pick,
and met all
So then
those
the ice
people.
pick at the end of the movie is like the fucking spinning top in Inception. It's meant to confuse you and make you think that
Well, maybe she did
that there's some other possible ending.
Well, what I think it is,
but
is
it's actually when you more you think about it, it all starts to unravel.
Well, I think what is possible is that Roxy and Beth both were fucking Catherine to this day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when Catherine wanted something done, she had her little minions to go and do it.
Right.
And maybe it was because they were nutty about her and thought she was some sort of genius and thought, oh, yeah, I'll just see if I can get away with the same things with the characters.
Fucking Sharon Stone in 1992.
Yeah, I mean, sure. But sure.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. But
I mean, she had Michael Douglas around her fucking figure the whole movie.
Everything seems to be purposely laid into the plot. The discussion that somebody might be just acting out the book, whether it's to hurt the author or to be, and maybe it was, I'm going to go do these things as and Jean Triplehorn's doing it to get back at her for all of her past kookiness.
So there could be an element of manipulation within that circle of women, but
also,
and they also might be trying to manipulate each other, and it just all this shit just fucking went to pot.
Right.
All right, I could buy that.
I mean, I don't know. It's an ambiguous ending. I think
she's like essentially the last woman standing.
Yeah, and maybe I'm being a Michael Douglas right now, and I'm just like, I just want to put my dick in that, But at the same time, though, if Joe Esterhas called us up right now, beep, 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 beep. Hey Joe, what's up? Oh, okay, so yeah, she was the killer all along. Okay, cool. Hang up, done.
Yeah. He actually called.
He just called.
Yeah.
And said, dude, that's what's up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thanks.
You heard it here first.
First-ish.
Ish.
Ish.
How old is this movie?
26 years old. Anyway, this movie had some controversy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about that.
You want to talk about that?
I
because
do.
I think there are things to talk about with this. So, I'm just taking this off the Wikipedia page. The film generated controversy due to its overt sexuality and graphic depiction of violence. Which, I mean, it's the era that it came out in.
Yep.
The MPAA was very stringent on slasher movies. It's like sexuality. I mean, show them boobies, but don't really make it look like you're having sex.
Or having a good time having sex.
Or having a good time. Yeah. It's like this must be the traditional 50s woman lays there.
Missionary only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your seed implanted in there.
And it better have come with like dinner and a movie beforehand.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely.
During principal photography, the film was protested against by gay rights activists who felt that the film followed a pattern of negative depiction of homosexuals in film. Members of the lesbian and bisexual activist group, Labia, I don't know why I went a little bit further. And it's like, what is that word? Labia is the name of the group. Protested against the film on its opening night. Others also picketed theaters to dissuade people from attending screenings, carrying signs like "Kiss My Ice Pick," "Hollywood promotes anti-gay violence," and "Catherine did it. Save your money. The bisexual did it."
Wow.
That's a lot to put on one sign. Verhoeven himself defended the group's right to protest. However, he criticized the disruptions they caused, saying, "Fascism is not in raising your voice. The fascism is in accepting the no." Verhoeven's a weird dude.
Well, hold on. Let's unpack.
Well, what this actually this follows up something that we were talking about during the movie. Film critic Roger Ebert mentioned the controversy in his review, saying, "As for the allegedly offensive homosexual characters, the movie's protesters might take note of the fact that this film's heterosexuals, starting with Douglas, are equally offensive.
Yeah.
Still, there is a point to be made about Hollywood's unremitting insistence that typecasting homosexuals, particularly lesbians, as twisted and evil." Camille Paglia denounced gay activist and feminist protests against Basic Instinct and called Sharon Stone's performance one of the great performances by a woman in screen history, praising her character as a great vamp figure like Mona Lisa herself, like a pagan goddess.
I think she is. I kind of agree with that. Her performance in this movie is.
She's the only one who stays even keeled the entire way through.
But she does so much subtle manipulation.
Oh, every time that she flashes a sweet smile, it's like, oh, everything's gonna be great.
She's great.
Everything's gonna be great.
She's great in this. I think her character is incredibly complex, even if maybe she's a bad person. Guess what? There's fucking bad people out there, and they fall into every race, every sexual identity. There are bad people in this world, and maybe she's one of them. Now, I totally get the aspect of, we're in it. The gay and lesbian community is fighting, and are still fighting to this day, for positive representation of themselves
and
in art.
We've talked about this too when we talked about Warlock.
And I can understand a backlash to, oh God, it's just another angry gay woman, right? Murderous maybe, right? And how that is not necessarily the identity that they want.
Yeah, a couple of things about that. Also,
God, we're going to get into this next week with Color Night too, aren't we?
Yeah, there's some sexual identity and some gender identity stuff in that. So in the right at that time, the zeitgeist is really, really heavy on Silence of the Lambs was about to win Best Picture if it hadn't already. At the time that this movie came out.
Yeah.
Which there was a sexually confused bad guy in that.
Oh, for sure.
Would be what I would call it, because, I mean, even Clarice Starling says homosexuals are not typically violent.
Right.
But, and then Hannibal Lecter's like, well, this is not what you're dealing with here. This isn't what you're dealing with.
I think in a lot of ways, you have somebody who has problem. They're having a difficult time identifying their sexuality and their gender.
Growing up in a time that it would have been repressive,
but also and yes, and the repression I think is probably what broke that person. Yes,
and because the thing is that if I'm not mistaken, I think a lot's been put into either Red Dragon or in the background of Silence of the Lambs that Hannibal Lecter himself would have homosexual relationships. But that was because he was a sociopath and a psychopath.
That is played out a lot in the TV show.
Right. And so that's not necessarily him being gay or bisexual. It's what can I
manipulation.
Do? I can control that person. I'm going to eventually eat him.
It's sexual control.
Right.
Right.
And it's a power trip at that point.
Yep.
Which is a big part of Catherine's character.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's not necessarily that nobody should look at Catherine and say that the hallmark identifying characteristic of her is that she's bisexual.
No.
Like, not even fucking close.
The number one thing you should say about her is that she's an incredibly intelligent person.
Yeah.
Which probably speaks very kindly to to feminists and to the gender.
But she's also probably a sociopath.
But guess what? Anybody can be.
Right.
Yeah.
But yes. So yeah, I think that's a rough generalization to make on this movie to generate that kind of protest.
Right. And I mean, yes, granted, this was during a time where it's like, we'll just throw in a person who's a crossdresser or
Right.
bisexual.
Make
or
it weird. Put a
make it
dwarf
weird.
in it.
You know, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like twist that sexual dagger
I
a little
get
bit
it.
more.
I get it. And you're trying to look for sexual angles to make your erotic thriller more different. Or
Why not have him be bisexual?
So I get that. That's probably the biggest exploitation element of
Right.
this film. Yeah.
Why not make her bisexual
Yep.
on top of it?
Yep.
Now, the other thing I was saying that follows up with what Roger Ebert said was that nobody in this movie is perfect.
No.
Gus, our favorite character, is a drunk driver.
Yep.
And probably an alcoholic. Michael Douglas has a laundry list of problems, but you still care about them.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we're not being.
I mean, Michael Douglas basically rapes Gene Triplehorn in this movie. It's yeah,
and
it's the kind of scene where he, you know, it starts out a little rough, and she is sort of into it, and then
he just bends her over
and he
a chair.
bends her over a chair, a couch, and he violently penetrates her. Yeah. And she is actually yelling no, but he does it anyway. And then you get left with this sense afterwards that she was okay with it. But then what I will give this movie credit for is that she actually tries to have the conversation with him about it.
Yeah.
She's like, you've never done that before. You've always made love to me. That wasn't making love. What was that? And he gets defensive.
Yeah.
I think almost maybe he knows he went too far, but he is not willing to confront his own darker self.
Right,
and they have
also
a fight.
he doesn't want to admit that he got a super hard on from Sharon Stone.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
right.
But I mean, like
there's sexuality and violence are starting to converge for him.
Right,
and he takes it out on her, and it's really disgusting. But yet she still carries this torch for him for the rest of the movie.
Which also, and even her dying words are, "I love you."
I love you. Yeah.
Which is, it's like, man, live with that for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
buddy. You just shot somebody who wanted to say that she loved you. My defense of the okay, I don't want to say defense. We kind of had a conversation about this where I said that, yeah, he raped her, and yes, the aftermath is that she seems to be okay with it, but then you find out very quickly after that she has some dirt on her too, that she's not as well as you think she is mentally.
Yeah.
And that I don't think that necessarily means that she is weak because she is okay with what happened. She still plays the game that she's playing, whatever game it is that she's playing.
Yeah.
She continues to confuse him and continue to drive daggers into him, you know, and it's like, it's not based out of revenge for that moment, but that she actually does very much care for him and wants to help him feel better and be better.
What this movie does is it creates, none of the characters are overly likable. She's probably the most likable one until you start to see some things unravel. But even then, even when she's likable, she's terrible at her job. She's having sex with Michael Douglas, who is her patient.
Right, who she's supposed to be giving a unbiased treatment for with Internal Affairs.
Right.
And Internal Affairs knows that she is not clean herself. Like, this is during a time,
and we
also
haven't even
when,
brought up the fact that Michael Douglas is being investigated because he shot 2 tourists in probably a coke and alcohol fueled tragic mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
And this was also during a time though in which Internal Affairs, there was a whole movie called Internal Affairs.
Yeah, there was.
Was that Andy Garcia?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Where they were kind of deemed as the bad guy, and I call them the man of the man, where it's like, oh, fuck these guys who, I'm just going out there busting criminals and busting thugs, and these fuckers are breathing all over me.
They're like the defense attorneys. They're on the same level of scum as a defense attorney. Yeah.
Yeah, in these types of movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the point is, basically, everyone is broken in this movie. Everyone who has any sort of identifying character in this movie is broken in some way, or manipulating someone in some way. They're not probably people you want to associate with in your life. Honestly, they're all pretty much pieces of shit.
But they are also part of the world that we live in.
Right.
Yeah. You and I are flawed people.
Right.
It's like everybody we know is a flawed person.
Perfect. Yes.
And
yes.
that is perfectly fine.
Right.
It's where you have to draw lines to where you want to be. Like, you don't want. That Michael Douglas is a terrible person.
And you still. So yes, that's the thing about Michael Douglas is I identify with him the most throughout this movie, but there are certain things he does that are over the line for me.
Right. But at the same time, though, it's like you still don't really want to wish ill upon him.
Right. Sure.
It's like you still want him to find out who the killer is, and hopefully him himself not be killed. It's like I don't want him to be ice picked at the end because he wants to.
This movie is layered with intrigue.
Yeah, and that's and it's like, and the neo-noir or the noir element of it is because everybody's dirty or scummy,
right,
or a dirtbag,
right,
or a scumbag,
yeah,
or dirty or scummy.
Dirty or scummy.
Did I mention that they might be dirty or scummy? Some of them are goddesses that you really, really, really just want to go at it with. You just want to, I don't mind the idea of being ice picked at the end. Because I know that first guy at least got off before he got off.
You want to get off before you get off.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all I ask.
Man, I think we did it.
I think we did it too. I
think
we have packed the shit out of this one. We picked
and then we
the
ice picked it.
Yeah, we picked the ice.
We picked that ice. We packed it in. We
y'all feel better about the world now, don't you? That we've deconstructed basic instinct.
Yeah.
You feel like you've had some psychology sessions with Beth and Catherine.
Yeah, and you've probably got boners for both of them.
Are you Beth or Catherine? Are you a Beth or are you Catherine? Or are you a Detective Curran?
I've been Or
are you a Roxy? Who are you in this movie?
I don't know. I'm
a Gus. I'm definitely a Gus.
I'm probably a Michael Douglas in this because it's like
minus the country western thing,
dude. After we watch Urban Cowboy, you're gonna want to go ride that bull.
We're gonna go down to the honky tonk.
Yeah. Well, that place isn't even around.
We're gonna go
anymore.
to the new honky tonk down there at the old ice house on Bluff Road.
Yeah.
Dukes. Yeah, that's where we're gonna go. Hey, Dukes.
Do they have a bull?
I don't know.
Mechanical bull?
I don't know if they do.
I know the 8 Second Saloon did.
Yeah.
But I never got on it.
I think the bull is a little too quiche. I think that quiche or kitsch.
Quiche.
That's a quiche, like a cheese pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a little too much of a cheese pie. The mechanical bull. Dukes is more of a.
It's just is it a line dancing bar?
No. They just play like outlaw country. It's like Willie Nelson. It's the kind of bar that Willie Nelson would want to hang out at.
Okay, then you want to watch Urban Cowboy.
All right,
that's good country.
All right, cool.
Anyway, no, I would say that I'd probably be the Michael Douglas character because it's like, man, sometimes you just gotta get that dick wet, and that person is nuts.
My dick.
You know that person is totally bonkers, but she's really good at what she does.
Yeah,
and it's like. Yeah. Because I mean, like, it's like I've once been called a sociopath, but I'm not. I don't think. I think is that one of those things where it's like if you question it, you're probably not.
I've had that thought before because I've questioned my sociopathicity
I thought you
as well.
You questioned my sociopathy.
No, myself.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think maybe it's like if you write a book about a crime before it happens, that's your alibi. If you question whether or not you're a sociopath, you're not. Yeah, I know, right? I just fucked you up even more, didn't I?
Anyway,
should we talk about Verhoeven for a minute before we close this thing down?
Go for it.
Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, you looked up some really interesting.
I don't know how down that rabbit hole I want to go, but Paul Verhoeven, yeah, look him up. He's kind of like a weird biblical scholar kind of guy.
But not in a Jesus preachy way.
No, in kind of a historical, what did he actually say and
real
do
person
kind
Jesus.
of way. It's interesting, but I'm not going to go down that route. I just want to kind of mention it's Paul Verhoeven. Also, perfect opportunity for another video store story. I remember our good friend, I will mention his name, Shannon Mullins, saying at one point that while he was working at the video store, a guy came up to the counter and he was renting 3 movies. I think it was these 3 movies. I can't remember exactly, but he had Total Recall, Starship Troopers, and Showgirls.
Nice.
Right? And that was
all 3 movies we may someday talk about.
Right. And those were the 3 movies he was renting. And Shannon looked at him and was like, huh. He looked up and was like, so are you having a Paul Verhoeven night? And the guy looked at him like he just asked him if he was an alien. Yeah. He had no idea what he was talking about. And Shannon was like, huh, okay. Here you go. Have a good night. Enjoy your fucking Paul Verhoeven movies. So
yeah, I hope you read the cast so you can realize how stupid you just looked at me.
Just really funny. That someone could pick out, but that's an interesting thing, right? All right, so somebody is like, I want to see these 3 movies. They all appeal to me, and probably
I want to see big guns shooting big bugs.
Yeah,
I want to see some titties, and I want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger
and a 3-titty lady. Yeah.
That's what I would be.
Right.
That sounds like a perfect Saturday night
Paul
to me.
Verhoeven makes these kind of movies that appeal to...
All he was missing was RoboCop.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, yeah. So, I mean, Paul Verhoeven is his string of movies from RoboCop to Total Recall to Basic Instinct was a hell of a run.
And then throw in Starship Troopers, which is one of the most, I think, misunderstood movies ever.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Although when I did see it in with the Riff Tracks Live, it was phenomenally done with them. But I think everybody understands. If you really understand that movie and really understand what it's trying to say, you understand at the end that you should not be feeling good about what's going on.
Well, yeah,
it's not a bad message, but it's a downer message.
I was curious about the riff tracks of that because I was like, really? They're going to parody a parody? Like, how does that work?
They're pretty good at what they do.
Yeah, okay. Good to know because, I mean, that movie, it was very clear to me when I saw it in a theater what it was trying to say. And it spawned a whole bunch of sequels, and I don't know if the sequels are as satirical.
Nope. I'm pretty sure they're not.
I
can't imagine that they would be. I mean, it's a paycheck for Casper Van Dien.
Yeah. What was it that we just watched that we got? Oh yeah, Hardware. We got all of the Paul Verhoeven vibes from it. He's just really good at that sort of subtle satire. But this movie kind of lacked all of that.
What it did though was it built a world that was very lived in. And everybody's got a secret or dirt on them. Like the real world, everybody has something that they are trying to overcome.
Sure.
Like the real world.
Sure.
Everybody is trying to get something for themselves, like the real world. So I would say that instead of it going the direction of all of this little tiny world building stuff around the periphery, it's all baked into each character.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially when you think about just the theme of manipulation. I mean, so many of his movies have that central theme. This absolutely, it's right there. Yeah.
So
interesting. Okay.
All right. Well, next week we've got Bruce Willis's cock.
Oh my God, we do. Fucking I forgot we see his penis in that.
Yeah, I even got the director's cut that's got 15
more minutes of penis
of steaminess. It's got basic. I'm hoping for a lot more Jane March titty.
We'll see. We'll see what we get.
But we'll see. It's over 2 hours long. I think this is going to be this going to mark the longest movie we've ever watched.
That was definitely a junior high video rental for me, and I don't think I've seen it since.
It was on video, I think, shortly after I started, or shortly before I started working at the video store.
Yeah.
So I mean, I definitely remember it being. It was talked about too. It was definitely talked about too. I was in high school.
What year is it? 93?
94. I was a junior in high school, I think, when it came out.
So I would have,
or I maybe had just started senior year. But
there
was a lot of.
a freshman.
There was a lot of talk around this one too. It was kind of like, is this the next Basic Instinct?
Right.
Because again, Michael Douglas is an established, well-liked actor, well thought of actor. I mean, he's got a couple of Oscars at home, and then Bruce Willis is an established, well-liked actor doing something steamy with completely different results.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. All right, well, we'll let that be a little bit of a tease for you. In Sexy September, we give you a little bit of a tease.
Little sexy tease.
Oh, yeah.
I'm shaking my boobies. Anyway.
So, yeah, until next time.
You can always check us out on the website.
Please do. The website, the Twitter,
the Facebook, the Instagram, filmseizure.com. All of our handles on those social media sites are at Film Seizure. But until then, I am Geoff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.